Welcome. These will be my thoughts on The Flash Season 1, Episode 22. Welcome to Rogue Air. So technically it's just called Rogue Air, but that is 100% what I thought of when I realized why that's what the episode was called. Now, the episode is rated TV PG, so will this video be, other than the shortly forthcoming YouTube video recommendation. There will be spoilers for the Arrowverse leading up to and including this episode, not for anything else, and another episode that I absolutely loved. So, the YouTube video recommendation, since it is Pride Month and this episode does not have a lot, it would be difficult for me to do a Pride reading of the episode. I mean, maybe I do. Maybe I'd do the following anyway. But anyway, the video I'm recommending is Pride themed. And it is the excellent video by, as usual, incredibly talented Going Rampant, called Intersex Film Review Between the Ears. So, lots to talk about. I'm going to try to keep it more or less chronological. I do think the writer's room hit it out the park. They did pen the pen. Now, do I try again and reveal that I screwed up the joke? I like the joke enough that I'm going to redo the setup, but you might have already guessed where it's going. The writers hit it out the park. Can't even blame it on cue card guy Wally. The writers hit it out the park. I do think they did pen the ultimate penultimate season 1 episode, and yeah, we'll cover it as I get to the different things that I thought were fantastic. I mean, even just the opening credits with all the names, and I'm like, that person's back, that person's back. That was yeah. And let's see, I think that does bring us to the yeah. So the let's see. I think the very first thing was the okay, one of the first things at least was the realization, so the particle accelerators turned. Well, let's see. It started up. It's charging. That's it. And yeah, I have to admit I did not realize that it was really clever of Cisco to bring the soda. Good thing that Joe asked why. I have to admit I was just thinking he must be really thirsty, I guess. And yeah, there is indeed the effect, the liquid, yeah. And so Wells Eobard runs past them, and Barry can't help himself. He's still, at this point in the show at least, I don't know about later, but so far he is still sometimes struggling with, he will jump into a thing, and it's the kind of thing of like, I mean, you already know you're not as fast as him. It just makes him more upset. It would be better to stay and figure out why was Eobard there, you know. But it is, it accomplishes multiple things. So one of the things is it reiterates that, Barry sometimes jumps into things without thinking them through, and that is kind of also what we see interesting Snart and just giving so very much to Snart with way too little in assurances that it's yeah, that he's not going to double cross him. And it also, reiterates, yes, Barry is not quite as fast as Eobard, which is of course crucial for the rest of the episode. But yeah, so they do find Oh, right, right, and that's when the teleporter, appropriately enough, teleports out. I understand Caitlin's reaction. I do think she might have forgotten about the tele part of teleporter by trying to outrun, but you know, fair enough. I'm not going to pretend like I would have a better plan off the top of my head there. And it's even, she destroys the, if she like shoots the button to open and close so that they're thankfully only very temporarily locked in there. And then the teleporter demonstrates that she, yeah, she talks about how, do you know what it's like being in a box? I mean, that is definitely true. It really sucks when people just think they have you all figured out. And anyway, but then she says, now you're going to be in a box, and this is where we see, and I think this is crucial for the development of her in the future. She is developing a secondary superpower, that of stating the obvious, because I'm pretty sure everyone watching, even the PG, like if there were actual children watching this, they already knew. She didn't have to add the box in the ground, But thankfully Iris does show up and help. Right, now yeah, I think before that we did have Barry and Iris talking at Jitters, which that was a really great scene, and I do appreciate the way that, yeah, like, it's not like she's never going to talk to Barry ever again, even though she knows about the lies. And we also have the fantastic opening narration bit. I really do appreciate the way that the narration on this show kind of, it's that, that's something that this has more so than, Arrow, at least so far, where that one has the flashbacks and such. But yeah, they basically like Eobard, and it turns out, at first I was thinking like, who is he talking about? Oh, right, Eddie. But yeah, he is justifying why he's doing what he's doing, and we can kind of understand without at all approving. But it also helps explain, why has he been, the this whole thing of, what's the word? I mean, helping Barry, really, I guess is the way to put it. Why is that? And let's see, that's when the yeah, so they hmm. I think that's when they realize about the, right, Cisco points out about the battery, and that was also really clever, both for him to do and for Eobard to be doing. Yeah, like, who's gonna like check out a wheelchair? Like, that's a really weird, rude thing to do, especially when someone you care about is using it. That's so, yeah. And let's see, I think, yeah, that's when they realize about the power thing. And yeah, Cisco points out, I have no idea what this thing is. If I mess with it, this whole place could explode. No, Barry, the rule of cool does not apply here, okay? And yeah, they talk about, well, if it does activate, then there's, for sure the metahumans in the cells are dead. So yeah, genuinely love this kind of conflict, for multiple reasons. One of them is the whole trolley problem. We also have this thing about how, like, yeah, Barry does want to protect people. Like, if he wanted the metahumans dead, It wouldn't have been putting them in cells, you know. It's yeah, just really, and I was genuinely sitting throughout so much of the episode thinking like, how is this even going to work? And I honestly did think that it would. Like I was picturing in my head that Lian Yu would be like attacked and all of them would be freed, but this is even cooler, literally. And yeah, really, really clever. This thing of, you know, who else is he going to turn to other than Snart? So yeah, and they're still not holding back at all with all the puns, I guess they qualify as references maybe, but yeah. So he asks for a drink that's as cold as possible. He says, you know, they have cold drinks here, and the music playing has like lyrics like "cold as you're cold as ice" or something like that. Not entirely sure it's the one that was sampled for MOP's "Cold as Ice," but yeah, I don't know, could be. Not entirely certain. And yeah, uh, I don't know. I kind of want to know what he even asked for first, because Barry does give up a lot in this episode. So, yeah. And yeah, so the right, we also have the yeah, I think before that the DA. And I appreciate that she's like, well, hypothetically, I would have to tell you that I would probably think that was a terrible idea. And just hypothetically, you probably shouldn't ask someone whose job it might be to prosecute you one day. Yeah, like they really must be incredibly good friends for her to yeah. Like there's a lot of people who would be like, mm-hmm, tell me more, excuse me, I'm just gonna reach into my coat. I just need to briefly see if my cell phone is recording. I mean on, because I have this habit of turning it off and then leaving it in there, and just okay. Now if you could please talk, just try to talk into my shoulder here. And so you were saying something extremely incriminating, but yeah, genuinely, I don't even know how they would have been able to without Snart's help. And it doesn't even happen with it. So yeah, and yeah, you know, he says, you know, if you remove me from all the databases, and I like that, you know, Joe is like the brass on this guy, and then Barry's like, sure. So I don't. There's a saying about two people not being on the same page. I don't think that's what's happening here. I don't think they're part of the same book, possibly not even one written in the same language. And yeah, you know, Joe takes him aside and points out that this is a pretty radical solution. And he doesn't call him Barry. He just goes by the first three letters of Barry's name, which does mean that this is... So if this episode had aired recently, I would be able to say that this is not the only time recently that someone has said something to the effect of, Bear, are you sure about this? Because this seems like a terrible idea. Yes, at some point I will watch. Obsession, I think it's called. I almost called it Possession, but that's because there was a video talking about how Possession from the 1980s in some ways is similar. But it sounds amazing, and there's so many movies in theaters. I simply cannot get around to watching them all, but it's on my list, and I checked it twice. But yeah, you know, Barry agrees, and yeah, like Snart has his, like, what a sweetheart deal. his name taken out of the criminal records of multiple different ones. Joe did manage to talk Barry out of agreeing that Snart could never be prosecuted for tax crimes. I mean, can you imagine if someone was able to secure a deal like that? That would just be completely ludicrous, right? That's... Did I overplayed? I feel like I may have overplayed that. Anyway, yeah, genuinely clever. The thing about the truck, the oh, right, and I think isn't that also when the yeah, so genuinely clever. The thing about I told you I wasn't gonna reveal the Flash's secret. He could easily say, I'm not gonna tell my sister that that's Barry Allen. Oh, whoops. And the thing, and she looks at him and is like, jerk. And he just responds, train wreck. So they're not the least dysfunctional family. The side of, what are those called from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Anyway. But, yeah, genuinely appreciate that. So, let's see. And yeah, with all the physical evidence, and yeah, she hits it with a blast from her gun. All that glitters is gold, I guess. And yeah, the I liked the dynamic between Sis and Kate. The thing about, like, I am not uptight. And then Bear's like, and then Kate amends it. You don't get to call me uptight. Which I do appreciate, and it's like, it's one of those things where, like, we, the audience, really love Kate. The fact that she's uptight is just, everybody's got a character flaw. They're not, like, way over, playing that. And also, it is genuinely funny to see, like, a career criminal call someone else, like, insult someone else, say, look, this one's got issues, like, huh. Very rich. I think she is, because she can Midas touch everything. Anyway, I think that does pretty much... Yeah, the part where, so Sis starts talking to Cisco, and yeah, the thing, he's like trying to keep his distance and saying, you're a criminal. And Kate's reaction, the thing about, like, you kissed her? And then Cisco says it was under duress, which, I feel like that's really stretching the definition of that word, but it is true that it's not like he's, trying to, do that again or something. But I really feel like Arrowverse so far does a fantastic job on femme fatales, because, like, I don't think we should retire that character type. And I'm willing to, like, if you are a feminist woman and you, want to make a case or link to a case, I'm absolutely willing to engage with that, or just take it in, absorb it. Maybe I'll change my mind. I'm absolutely open to that. But right now, the way I feel is having not just female villains, because not every female villain is a femme fatale. There are other circumstances under which a woman can become a villain character, but the femme fatale, there's just something so delicious about these, like, subtle manipulation things. Like, to be clear, I don't want every woman in media to be defined by, oh, she can wrap men around her finger. I'm just saying, to every so often have at least one character like that. Yeah, they're just so fun. It wasn't terribly many episodes of Arrow ago that they brought back Cupid. Just yeah, the way that she, like the thing about, I think Cisco says something like, don't count on it happening again. And she leans in real close and then says, a girl can dream, and then walks off, just to like say, maybe it's not going to happen again soon. But you're going to be thinking about it, aren't you? Just that little, and she was also saying, I've been thinking about you. And he's like, please stop thinking about me. Just, yeah, it's fun, and it's especially fun when it's when the femme fatale is dealing with a man who is really struggling to resist, and let's see, yeah, I guess that does get us to the, not choppa but truck. And yeah, genuinely clever, this thing of like, oh, it emits a pulse that disrupts the powers. And I guess I'll briefly talk about the, yeah, very cool, this thing of like, well, how do they get them past all these people? Well, Barry will set up the roadblock things and such along the way. And the, let's see, I guess that does pretty much get, yeah. And so yeah, also this thing of like, Sis has that license. I think that's also part of what works so well about the femme fatales. Like, they have personality beyond being just, seductive and such. And there's, yeah, there, in general, there's more to them. They are actually really interesting. Like, I am not certain if she just wanted to mess with Cisco, if she was just like gonna like get him to admit he really wants to kiss again, and then she'll say, good to know, or something, because I mean, it's not like Cisco's gonna like call the entire mission off based on that. It's just gonna make for a very awkward truck ride, which I don't know if she would necessarily mind, and yeah, just, yeah, I it's really cool that she's got that license, and also just the image of, you know her hitting the gas pedal, and we see she's got the high heels and everything, just, yeah. I guess that does bring us to, because see, one of the main things I think about femme fatales, I am of the opinion that we can do them as long as it's not, an overwhelming number of women characters who are like that, and it's very clear that there's not some implication that's like, oh, women, am I right? Because that would be bad. That is why I'm relieved that it is, you know, that there's so many more complex female characters today than there used to be, But I think, yeah, and them talking in the truck was also great. And the thing about like, you made the gun for me. The least you could do is give me a cool nickname. And yeah, Golden Glider. That's good. Genuinely. And yeah, and then she says, "Smart is sexy, Cisco," which is a lot of S's for one sentence. And yeah, that's also, I really do appreciate these shows pointing out, women are attracted to more than just like physique, or, yeah, I'm just briefly going to acknowledge there are some women who are attracted to men with a lot of money. And if you think about it for like 2 seconds, you really should realize that doesn't mean that, oh, women are so shallow. No, it's because women for a very long time, and still a lot of places around the world, are not legally allowed to provide for themselves, and yeah. I guess that does bring us to the yeah, so they arrive, and I think I might have missed calling out the references, because this is not the first on the show, to Ferris Air Base. I feel like there's been at least one that I neglected to call out. So much happens in these episodes, but I continue to really appreciate them. And in this one, they come right out and say, oh yeah, it's shut down because a test pilot disappeared. That's very interesting. I don't know. I just, sometimes if things are going badly, some might think like, ugh, I wish I could just disappear. And, hearing about a Ferris Air Base test pilot who mysteriously disappeared, you might end up green with envy. And, yeah, that's enough, right? People know what I'm saying. Yeah. And I guess that does bring us to the, yeah, I loved that, yeah, some of them actually start fighting there in the bag. They don't even they don't have their powers, but they're just so, yeah. And the one who can turn into mist actually, threatens, even though it's like, what are you doing? Like, what good do you think is going to come of that? You're not expecting to get your powers back anytime soon, but you're still going to threaten, just, yeah. And let's see. I guess that does bring us to, yeah. So the pulse starts pulsing, which it's not supposed to do, and we get one of those scenes that I love in comic book media, where there are so many different superpowers on one side against, I mean, essentially just it's only really one person on the other side with superpowers. And yeah, genuinely incredibly cool. Just because it's this thing of like, yeah, individually he can take them out. He's proven that, but this is all of them at once, because they require such different tactics. It's just, I love it. This is such a major part of the appeal of super villain groups. Like I distinctly remember the first time that I read my way through a Spider-Man comic that featured the Sinister Six. It's so freaking cool. And again, like, outside of like comic book media and stuff heavily inspired by it, you just don't get this kind of thing. Like, there's so many movies that like hypothetically could, but it's like mainstream appeal. We gotta limit it to just one villain. And I do also appreciate if you're only making like one movie, then you also don't want to overdo the number of villains, because then it's just gonna get over. It's gonna end up busy. But it's the kind of thing you can do with these serialized comic book media. Just yeah, because we remember every single one of these characters. They even brought back all yeah, every, I'm almost 100% certain they brought back every single person all the same cast. I mean, all the characters that returned. Best I could tell, my research was sort of checked IMDb, but I believe they're the same actors. So and they will briefly say, what is their, we get a brief reminder of what their powers are. And I think that does cover. So yeah, he does manage to stop. I'm afraid I'm not really remembering the names, but Mr. Mist. And let's see. Cisco, write that one down. But yeah, ultimately, they do stop him. And the thing about, Snart does stop one of them, but other than that, and yeah, very believable that Kate, we know that's, I mean, it worked. It's, yeah. it's worked on others as well. You know, it's not like, oh, she's a bad person or something. And let's see. Yeah, you know, start pointing out, you all owe me. You're going to be effective members of the Rogues. Yeah. I guess that's easy enough time to say. So, my father and I have started yet another rewatch of Prison Break. It's only going to be the second time we watch the 5th season, but the first 4, it's been it's several by now. I brought it up. I didn't exactly have to twist his arm. And yeah, so today I watched a Prison Break episode featuring, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. But yeah, who plays Captain Cold in this show. So yeah, it really is. I mean, I've pretty much given the descriptive terms already for how I compare the performances, but it really is very impressive how distinct these two are. And yeah, I just realized I forgot to bring up the deleted scene. So I'll just briefly note, there's a short bit when Barry is talking to Eobard before the fight starts, where it goes to Kate, Joe, and Cisco, and they talk about, like, what is Barry gonna do? He's not faster than him, and and it's not terrible, and it definitely is very short. It basically just exists to underline, maybe raise the stakes. I don't think it was necessary. Other than that, let's see. I feel like there was at least one more. But one I definitely also remember is there was a tease. See, it's difficult to get out of my mind now. But there was yeah. After Barry stops Eobard, he shows up 15 years ago in his bedroom in the Flash suit. So that is very effective. Yeah. So it does appear that that is going to be that the season 1 finale will put Barry in that situation. I've mentioned before, I believe, in other of these videos, I wasn't sure when they were going to get to it, but I would be shocked if they didn't do it. And I feel like there's at least one more deleted scene, but I cannot quite place it. I have been horribly neglecting Eddie, and I'm going to rectify that. So, yeah, they find him, and they put him on a drip, and Iris finds the ring and talks to him and says she loves him, which he does not say back, and he doesn't even take the ring back. And later, she says it's ridiculous for him to end their relationship just because of what he was told about the future. And then he says, deep down, I always knew. This was a 3-person relationship, and I'm not into ethical non-monogamy. And yeah, it was a very pointed way that he said, sometimes you miss stuff that's right in front of you, after Barry apologizes for not thinking of looking for him there. And yeah, so that's the thing. Like, technically, Iris could end up with Barry soon, but she's understandably, rightfully upset that he lied. And it is one of those things of like, wait, are you gonna change your Facebook relationship status because of what someone said about the future, after saying that Eddie shouldn't, and it's a, wonderfully weird comic booky situation to find yourself in. Oh, so in the future we are married, so I guess that means we should get married. Like, this is after she said that she believes you choose your own destiny. So the And that is, of course, also a really fascinating idea because we've already seen that sometimes that newspaper does change. So, I guess, doesn't that pretty much get us to... Yeah, it was also great seeing, I mean, sad, but great because of that, seeing Eddie's empty desk at the start when Eobard is talking. And I think that is... Yeah, so the rogues are free. Purchase of a rogue of equal or greater value. And yeah, the bit with start, Flash says, "You gave me your word," and you know, Eobard's wow, I need sleep. That is what's happening here. Cold, Captain Cold. I watched a review of the James Bond game earlier. Okay, I'm sorry. Captain Cold basically just rephrases the whole, scorpion on a frog story, I think it is, and yeah. And Barry admits, actually, I forget if it's this part or some other part of the episode, but at one point he admits, he thought he could do this. He thought this could work and that he could do something because clearly he on his own cannot stop Eobard, and he needed to feel like he was in control of something. And Joe reassures him and says, no, you're not Oliver Queen. You're a different kind of hero. And that's, of course, crucial for this show to work. I'm not sure it would have ran 9 seasons as it did, if I recall correctly. I know it's not that I've watched past this episode yet, but, the DVD set says so. If this had just been like, oh, more of, Arrow. Anyway, I believe that pretty much gets us to the last bit of the episode. So yeah, the thing is charged and ready, and Eobard shows up, and they're even telling Barry, don't go. He still does, and genuinely really cool that he called in backup. Because like yeah, at the time it looked like, oh, he's gonna try again on his own. No, he was just making sure that they were all in position and genuinely clever. Ronnie and Ollie, the ML brothers. And yeah, that is genuinely very, very cool. I guess that is, or in, Ronnie's case, hot, obviously. And yeah, the thing with, yeah, the entire fight was incredibly cool. Love the way that everyone gets to pull some moves that, feel like, okay, they thought about this. No one just like uses their abilities or powers in a way that it's like, of course that wouldn't have worked. You're just showing off or something. And yeah, Ollie, as usual, thinking of a Eurocentric solution, does make a lot of sense for the but yeah, what do you say, nanobots? Ray Palmer, huh? That is does that mean, I guess he made that before the events of the most recent Arrow episode, but I can buy that because he had met, Team Flash, and he, yeah, makes sense that he would make that. And let's see, and that he would be brilliant enough to do it. But yeah, that part where Eobard manages to send Ronnie flying away and Barry has to go stop him, and then so cool when Ollie and Eobard are fighting, and understandably enough, Ollie does win because this, yeah, there, I would have been very surprised if Eobard could match the but yeah. And it genuinely is very cool that he's actually able to keep up with Ollie for anywhere near that long. Like we've seen Ollie take down, you know, a lot of people with much less effort. It's saying something about the quality. Sorry, the recording is. Anyway, I believe, yeah, and it took more than one of the arrows, so he did recover fast, but ultimately they were able to stop him. And right, and I mean there was one part where it looked like Yabard might actually kill Ollie, and Barry stops him, reminding him, hey, the most recent episode of his solo show, it actually kind of looked like everybody but him died. So if he dies too, there's not going to be a show. And they have one episode left of that season. But I guess that does pretty much. Yeah, and I like the point about, the changes that Ollie has made recently, and the thing about I might need a favor from you. You don't say. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I don't know if that's going to be the Arrow finale or it's going to be sometime in like season 4 of Arrow or what, but yeah, very, very cool. And I guess that does cover, let's see, the genuinely also very clever. It just dawned on me this second, but before we saw Ronnie, we had the reminder that, Kate loves Ronnie and that he's out there and in pain, and that, some might blame Cisco for it. And maybe on some level, Kate does, even though she appreciates that that's not really fair. He did the best he could. And yeah, shortly after we actually see him. That was also, I wasn't sure that fight was going to be in this episode. I thought maybe the episode would end with the tease for the 3-on-1. And I'm not 100% sure how the last episode is going to play out, because I feel like there's probably, in some way or another, he's going to be a threat. But yeah, theory-wise, I figure the not generator, yeah, the machine. It's blanking on the name right now. I'll try to catch up on sleep and do better next time. But the yeah, the thing will run, and both of the speedsters on the show so far will go back to 15 years ago, and something dramatic will happen. And I wouldn't rule out that maybe it will culminate in Barry being able to prove that his father did not kill his mother, and so that the status quo changes in that significant way for season 2, that his father is a free man, and now they have to try to like reintegrate him into society, that kind of thing. But maybe not. We'll see. I'll see. I'm sure most of the people who want to have already watched. I guess that does pretty much cover. Yeah, I'm super excited. It won't be very many days before I do the finale. And let's see. I guess that does pretty much. I feel like there's at least one more thing I really wanted to make sure to say about this episode. I don't think it was a reference to a comic thing. I feel like I've talked about character stuff. Let's see. The Yeah, it genuinely is very clever, this thing of like, Barry appeals to Captain Cole by saying, you said, the city's your home. well, these metahumans would destroy it. It didn't occur to Barry, as it clearly did to Snart. If they owe him something, you know, yeah, he can just, like he'll talk them out of destroying the city, and yeah, that's genuinely very, very clever. Um, and it's also one of those situations like I wouldn't rule out maybe at least one of them will try to turn on him, but with his cold gun and siblings, I wouldn't rule out that. I mean, he's gonna be difficult for them to deal with. And right now they do have a common enemy. All of them want Barry off their backs. So yeah, I guess that does pretty much cover. Let's see. There's at least one more thing. Now, what was it? The thing that was left. Right. So I did really appreciate, Joe even says he's uncomfortable with this whole prison transport thing, but, so he asks for advice. And yeah, the DA points out that this, you know, she doesn't use the exact term I'm going to, but technically, this is kind of human trafficking. And yeah, that is just such a deeply unethical thing for anyone to do to anyone else. And yet a number of young men now idolize a guy who does it, tells others to do it, explains how to do it, and brags about it, and then wonder why women don't like them so much. Huh.